Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever part of the world you're in. I have my name is Chisom Obiezu Ume, and I have the honors to introduce our speaker today, Kalilah Wright. So she is the founder and CEO of an expressive apparel brand called Mess in the Bottle. She established this company as a form of communication and a way to evoke change and to start important conversations. So as a designer and trained architect, she used her master's degree in architecture from Morgan State University and Bachelors of Art from Penn State to give her community a voice. So Mess in the Bottle was birthed in a small row house in Baltimore, Maryland, but quickly gained traction and became a nationally recognized brand. Celebrities such as Viola Davis, Serena Williams, Luvvie Ajayi Jones, Lena Waithe, Yvonne Orji, and many more are all proud supporters of her brand. So she's also been featured on national TVs like Shark Tank, and she has really shown the world that she's nothing to mess with. Kalilah has fostered partnerships and brand collaborations with major corporations such as Warner Brothers Studios for their movie, The Kitchen, YouTube, Roc Nation, Rapsody, TLC Network, Google, BT, you name it all, and Target too, for their Black History Month collection. So she's expanding her brand beyond t-shirts. Kalilah continues to use her expressive form of communication to give the world a much needed message. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Kalilah Wright. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chisom. I appreciate the warm introduction, and thank you, everyone. So I'll go ahead and share my screen with you guys. This is amplifying your mess with a message. So again, my name is Kalilah Wright. I am the CEO, owner, and founder of Mess in a Bottle. So we are an apparel brand. We put messages on t-shirts and they come packaged in a reusable bottle. So I just wanted to talk today about how to amplify your mess with a message. And what that means is that, like, we all have mess. You know, life can be a bit challenging sometimes. There can be many things that you may, either want to kind of showcase about your life that, some days you feel as if, no one will understand what you're going through. But the reality is we all have mess. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can amplify how amplifying your voice is not just about sharing your message, but it's about getting, getting your message, getting people to actually listen to your message. And, the way that I decided to do this and express this is through apparel. It was through fashion. So we had a riot here in Baltimore, Maryland. In 2015, an African-American male by the name of Freddie Gray, he died while in police custody. And so, of course, this was very traumatizing to the community. And at the time, I was a designer. And, I just felt like the world needed a message. So a lot of the times, I think with creating and starting a business, sometimes you're not always sure, like what you're creating and why you're creating it. But I just wanted to be able to, show to you guys that sometimes you'll have sort of a message through adversity. And this was sort of the thing that was going on around me. And I really wanted to ensure, that I reacted and what was the reaction that I wanted people to either, get from just this very catastrophic thing that was occurring, sort of in my community. Like this CVS that you guys see in the background, that was actually my local CVS that got burnt down within, the riots. And so for me, it was very impactful because this is my community. And I wanted to figure out, how do you give people a message? And like I said before, how do you even get them to react and for them to listen? So, how do you use your current job, your employer, or even your educational background to kind of fuel your mission in becoming an entrepreneur? And so for me, I wanted to look at the things that's happening around me and figure out, like, how can I utilize this? What can I do? How can I use this as an opportunity to really be able to share my message? And, even though I was working my 9 to 5 and I was, feeling like I had a job, I really wanted to feel like I had a purpose. So a lot of the times people jump into entrepreneurship because they feel like they either need like job security, and a lot of the times people are afraid to jump into entrepreneurship because they feel like, they want to ensure that they have job security. But as we realize, especially with the pandemic and things that's going on, like it's almost like nothing is a for sure thing right now. So I wanted to really start my company to ensure for myself that I had some kind of job security for me. So will starting a business truly provide you with the stability you desire? Remember, a business is a baby and it'll take time to grow. So just like all of the places that you either are employed for now or work at, a lot of the times, we don't know the history of the company, and we also don't know the stepping stones that they've actually taken to grow and kind of establish and become a big brand or whatever. So, a lot of times I think within entrepreneurship, people don't understand what and how much it really takes. Like a business, yes, it can kick off and get off the ground, and maybe tomorrow it will, spark and be great, but that's not always the case. It takes time. And I think the more that you think about a business as a baby and you think about it as being this thing that you actually have to nurture, feed, pour into, that is when you'll begin to realize like, oh, wow, like, so just because you think jumping into a business, people sometimes think that it will grow right away and that you'll be able to, make your salary right away. And that's definitely not the case. Like it takes years, it takes time, and it takes a lot of, kind of dedication to the business, even while, it might not be doing great. So is this residual income for your family? So this is my son right here, and he was probably around like 4 years old. And when I started this business, again, I really didn't know, what I was creating. I just knew that I was sort of following my passion. And my son is almost 10 years old now. So looking back at this picture, I've been in business for about 7 years as a full-time entrepreneur. And again, these are ways that I turn my mess into a message. I had no idea what I was creating, how I was creating it. But I knew that, to even amplify my own light, I had to use this as a, something to help catapult me into what I wanted to become. So is this a family affair? Will everyone be involved, or would this be another overwhelming thing that you start and you're struggling through? So, it's important to ask yourself, because I think a lot of people, they think about entrepreneurship and they think that it's this, fun and exciting thing. But it's definitely something where you have to decide, do you want a partner in business? Do you want your family to be a part? Is this thing you're doing, is it for you, or is it for, your child, or is it, why are you starting the business, and how will you use that to help fuel you? And I think that that's kind of where sometimes we make a mistake, because a lot of the times we think we're creating and starting a business and you don't have your why. So when things get difficult, you don't really have something that you need to either go back to, revisit, and really figure out, like, well, what can I do, with this to help fuel me to get to the next step? So some people just sometimes have a great idea that you're just dying to explore. So what you see here are bottles. And, I wish I probably kept one of these, but within my first year of business, I literally just started with these glass bottles that had like a wide rim top. And I just knew that I wanted my t-shirts to come packaged in a reusable bottle. And, there was a lot of challenges that happened with these bottles because they would break in the mail. They would be very hard. I used to hand imprint my logo on them. So, it was a lot of challenging things when I first started the business. But again, when you begin to explore and, and when you have just a great idea, it's a good opportunity for you to just test everything out, for you to see, okay, like what works, what doesn't work, what do I enjoy doing? You know, what part of the business is for me? Like, I know that I didn't like love production. So, you know, I was like, okay, that's like the first thing that I either wanted to outsource, or, you know, I knew that I didn't want to just be a print shop. I like design, you know, that's my background. So I just wanted to share that, you know, especially when starting a business, there's going to be a lot of mistakes, there's going to be a lot of mess, but you have to keep sight of like that light at the end of the tunnel, and really ensure that you are following your vision, following your, you know, like what is leading you towards this thing, you know. Especially with starting a business, sometimes it feels as if, you know, are you on the right path? Are you doing the right thing? And that's where, again, like this either voice in the back of your mind or light that is, you know, shining, that you have to follow it and get to the other side of where you need to go within business. So is this a hobby or side hustle, or is this something that you just want to experiment with, explore, and see, you know, where it will ultimately take you? So, you know, starting a business and just trying to turn your mess into a message, you know, depending on how you want to get your voice heard, you know, it doesn't always have to be through apparel. You know, I've seen people create art, and that's a way that they've gotten their amplify their light, was really, you know, just through however they decide to be expressive. So I think that, you know, depending on your creativity level, or even speaking, you know, as a public speaker, as someone that continues to share their message, these are ways in which you can share, you know, your message to people, get people to really listen to you, because, you know, some people just need the motivation, they need the inspiration. So, you know, these are just some things that I would recommend. But I did this through like fashion and apparel and creativity and, you know, design. So just to get back to where and how I got started within my business. So, you know, this is me probably more than 10 years ago now. I was wearing a hard hat, and I started my career as an architect and as a designer. And so I worked for a lot of like construction companies, architecture companies, and, you know, I was very passionate overall about it. I wanted to learn the field, and I thought that, you know, it was beautiful again for me to be a woman and be in this position, and be a Black woman and be in architecture. As well, I will share, you know, I went to Penn State University and I majored in architecture, so Penn State and Morgan State, and I was able to really, you know, understand the profession, learn about the profession, and it's a very difficult profession to even get into. So, you know, I learned a lot, you know, by venturing into architecture and doing something that I truly loved. So that was me before I started my my entrepreneur journey. I worked as an architect and a designer for Under Armour, and I did this for, you know, several years. So this was something that I was very passionate about, and I really truly enjoyed it. But I will say as well, working in this space really allowed me to venture more into like just the marketing, and learn a lot about, you know, entrepreneurship. The founder of Under Armour, he was able to really get his business started with, you know, just starting out and being a very like unsure designer and not really sure about, you know, where his company would go. So for me, I followed on a similar path and not sure like how I would be able to, you know, pretty much amplify my light, you know, through my message. But while working at the company, I really knew that there was something that I wanted to share, and I felt like there was a deeper purpose. So, you know, me being at my 9 to 5 really pushed me to tell myself like I could do this. This is something that I need to venture into. So while I was at my job and I was like, you know, making decent money, I just still felt like this can't be it. You know, I left daily feeling unfulfilled, really feeling like, all right, I need to find something that can fulfill me further. So I don't know if there's people in the audience that like, you know, you are working and you sort of feel like you don't know what you are working towards, even if financially you're getting paid every week, like it just doesn't feel fulfilling. So, for me, that is where I started to look into entrepreneurship and really figure out how to start, my own company. And so I wanted to really share with you guys, I had doubts when I first started about if this would be like the main source of my income, if there's other things that I could do to supplement my income. But I have been a full-time entrepreneur for 7 years now. And, this has been no easy task, but it's definitely something that, I loved and I truly enjoyed. And, I spent many years trying to really perfect and, and get into a space in which, I really loved the profession that I'm in now. So when you are diving into entrepreneurship, one of the greatest things that you want to think about is your mindset. So can you be your own boss? When is the right time to leave your 9 to 5? And what will make you, feel ready? Do you have enough saved? Are you leaping out on faith? So, you need to really brainstorm your strategy plan, no matter what your message is, whether you are deciding to go into apparel or if you're deciding to, like, however you decide that you even writing, like, I've seen some great ways in which people, can really share their message with others and it comes across amazing within like being an author. So whatever you decide that you want to transition into, and with sharing your message, is this something that you're mentally prepared for? And does this align with your bigger goals, your larger vision? So mindset is a very big part of this. So I failed at my first entrepreneurial event, my first attempt at entrepreneurship. And I mean, I use that word lightly. I probably shouldn't say failed. It just wasn't a business that maybe got off the ground and that I fully ran with. I started out, before I started and ventured into t-shirts, I started a baby furniture company called Lily Nash. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. But I realized that there was a lot of like sweat equity that went into this company. There was a lot that I had to do to actually, create, make, and it was tiring and very overwhelming. So I ended up, here are some of the things that I learned: time versus money. If you don't, if you don't pay for it, it'll cost you with time. So you need to just start, and you cannot mitigate every risk. You will have to learn through experience. So the time versus money thing is really real, because I think that a lot of times we think, let me do it myself. But honestly, if you're not doing it, someone else is doing it, and or if you're doing it, it's going to cost you. So it's important for you to think about time versus money, and for you to figure out, like, are your skills worth you, packaging items and shipping them at the post office, or are you better at the back end and doing more of like the website stuff or the marketing things or the high level thing? So that's just something that you need to think about. And then you need to just start. A lot of the times, people get very fearful about starting because it's scary. It is not easy, but I would recommend that you just put it out there and you just start. And so can you mitigate every risk you have or can you mitigate every risk? You will have to learn through experience. I say that because no matter how much I could tell you on this call that, hey, don't do this or don't do that or don't do this, at the end of the day, you need to do what you need to do to make sure and ensure that it's right for your business, it's right for you. Because if not, you'll continue trying to, or some people don't even launch because they feel so afraid. And so for me, if I didn't launch 7 years ago, I don't think I would have known, the greatness that was on the other end of the other side of the door. All right, so that's me again, Kalilah Wright. And as I told you, so this is my company, Here with the Bottle, Mess in a Bottle. And we started in 2016, shortly after the Freddie Gray uprising in Baltimore, Maryland. So I decided to, I created a company that goes off of the 310 BC concept of receiving a message in the ocean. And so we put messages on t-shirts and then they come packaged in that reusable bottle. So that is really how I got my company off the ground and really launched Mess in a Bottle. So I started my t-shirt company with less than $500. And I know for a lot of people, they're like, how? Like, what did you do? And so, again, I just wanted to really and you don't have to, and I'm going to share in the next couple of slides, like, it's not to say that you can't do it, but it's just like, do you need to do it? Starting with $500 or less, really means that you have a lot of work that you sort of put on your table that you will, truly have to do. And you are just one person. So trying to do all these things by yourself as an entrepreneur, it can be very like it could be a lot of work and it could be very difficult and cause a lot of, for a lot of people to quit. And within their first year, a lot of businesses do not make it because of this very reason. So here's what happens when you launch with little to no startup capital. So what's the best way to launch? In-house versus outsource versus even drop ship. So are you a solopreneur? Do you need a co-founder? That's an important question because a lot of the times, like something that I might not be good at, if I had a partner, I could say, hey, I'm terrible at this. Also, if you have a partner or a co-founder, you can then say, like, listen, I'm holding you accountable to do this, and they then hold you accountable as well. So when you don't have someone like either truly supporting you or truly supporting your business, it is lonely and it is difficult. But also there are cons with that as well. Sometimes having partnerships causes, issues, and it causes a business to break up because, people aren't getting along. So do note that there are just several different reasons in which either having a co-founder or not having a co-founder can work for you. And I think it really just depends on who you are, how you work, and what is best. So which production method works best for you? In-house, outsource, or dropship? I'm sure right now you guys probably don't know what that means. For some people, if you're not within like the apparel industry, and I'll share some of this with you in the upcoming slides. But you need to really think about what works best with your current schedule and availability. So being that you are either possibly trying to venture out or figure out, what you want from your career, entrepreneurship, and all that other stuff, you have to think about, is it better for me to fully be working in-house and for me to, and what in-house means is like bringing all your production, you're, either doing everything or managing people to do everything. Outsource means that you're paying somebody, a third-party company, they are printing, they are getting stuff done. Drop shipping means that you're not getting any of that. Like you're not seeing the product, it goes straight to the customer and it's nothing for you to worry about. So you have to think about your schedule, your availability, what works best, and, think about how it will help your company to either grow or expand, depending on which one of these you select. So what part of this can be DIY and what parts can be outsourced? So, doing it yourself, again, there's just so many pros and cons. Sometimes people enjoy doing a lot of the work themselves, but then it goes back to what I said earlier. Does it make sense to do all this work yourself? Or is it better for you to outsource some of it? That way you can put your attention on other things and make more, make more money in other areas for your business. So my journey will not be your journey, nor will it look like anyone else's. A lot of the times people are expecting within entrepreneurship or, they think that their path is going to look like someone else's, but I'm here to tell you it will not. So the success I might have had, the things that I might have accomplished, all of those things are not going to be the same as yours. And so I know that for me, though it has taken me 7 years, we've done so many things. And as Chisholm read earlier, we were able to do so many partnerships, so many collaborations, so many events. and all of that came with just perseverance and me going out there and continuing on my path and on my journey, even on the days when I didn't see the light. So realistic, a realistic launch amount, I would say, is somewhere around $2,000. And again, this is if you kind of want to put things together without doing it all, without focus on doing it all yourself. So, some of the people that I would recommend you having on your team is like a website or a web or website developer, having someone to do legal services for you. If you think about production samples, you want to make sure that you're able to get some, test out the items, the materials, having a graphic designer, thinking about what equipment you may or may not need, and then lastly, shipping supplies. So, and that's all if you were doing it in-house. So I think that one of the things that a lot of people launching their company need to think about is, should you bootstrap or, do you want to have a pre-seed capital funding round? And what that means is, like, do you want to raise money to kind of keep your business going, or do you want to bootstrap? So every order that comes in, several monies from that order actually goes back into developing and growing and building your business. All right. So that's what you need to really think about. And so we were on some, platforms in which we did some fundraising, growth, and and we were able to raise some funds for our business. As I said earlier, I recommend everyone to just start. I know that is it's so easy, so cliche, but this is my best recommendation for everyone. Whatever you're working on, start it. So create a compelling concept. Does this topic have something that is relatable and or relevant to you? Do you need to be the face of your brand, and do you need to create something no one has ever seen before? I think a lot of the times we think that, you're creating something that's compelling, but the only way you're doing so is like by doing and creating a topic that's really relevant to someone. It doesn't have to be relevant to everyone, but it needs to be relevant to like a niche audience. So think about your relatability and what you're creating. Like, will different groups of people actually like it? So do you need to be the face of your brand? So I don't think you always need to be the face of your brand, but I do feel like because of social media and where we are right now, people want to have access to you. They want to see you. They want to see what you're working on. They want to see what you're doing. So this is really important. And do you need to create something that no one has ever seen before? No. I've seen on the same block 2 coffee shops. I've seen on the same street, 2 restaurants that have the same type of food. So I think it's just important for you to create your brand story and for people to buy into that. So how I went from my glass bottles to now my BPA-free reusable bottles. So hard work, determination, and no shortcuts do the work. I'm sure all of you on the call right now, are really into, knowing that you have to really work hard to get to where you want to be. So here's some misconceptions made about launching a t-shirt company. You don't need to have a big social media following. You don't need to create a concept that's, relevant to you. So meaning like you could create something about education, and that's not like your set field or something that you're really in. You don't need a lot of money to start, but you will need money to grow. You don't need to be the face of your brand. I talked to you guys about that briefly just now, and you don't need a lot of products to make it big. You could literally design and create one t-shirt and be able to, do amazing with that as well. So what to know about in-house versus outsource? Give me 1 second. Versus outsource. So you have to consider and think to yourself, are you a manufacturer? Do you want to produce and actually be focused on fulfillment, printing, shipping? So this is a screen print machine, and it takes a lot of work to really print and design and create your own t-shirts. So I recommend, and I tell people, don't buy equipment to then get stuck with it and then to have it in a corner, because equipment is not cheap, and you have to really, say to yourself, is it something that will help your company grow? Because you can still do all of this, and I'm going to show you how, without having a machine in your house, and you can still be profitable. So in-house production, most of the times you may need a heat press, vinyl cutter. You may need like some of the preliminary items to really get your t-shirt company or your apparel brand off the ground. So drop shipping, the production pros and cons. So drop shipping can be a great way for you to start with little to no startup capital. And that means, remember what I told you before, someone else prints your items, and then someone else prints your items, and then you just know that they've received it, it's shipped, and it goes straight to them. So you also have outsource, which is you could do cut and sew. So internationally, you can have a manufacturer and somebody actually make the product for you, or you could work with like a local screen printing company and have them print various items for you as well. So how do you get seen in an oversaturated market? This is not easy to do, because a lot of times you have so many people doing the same thing. But what I will say is, like, really great products, really great service, products that people could really tap into, things that they can relate to. Remember what we said earlier about relatability. So you want to create items that, are very on brand and relevant for you. So here's just like some stuff that we carry, and we sort of have that we want people to feel on brand, and really connect with our brands about. So how do you use the products to start an important conversation? And that was a big part of like just my overall message for you guys today. So no matter how you are starting, your company and what you are planning to do, it should have some kind of relevance. And, you want people to have the conversation, whether it's difficult conversations, whether it's great conversations, you want people to have, a good way of communicating, and for people to talk about how they can amplify their own mess and through your messages. So create a compelling brand people can relate to, and always remember, create brand loyalty, find your target audience, build a community, build consistency, and consistent renewal of the brand. That means that you have to spend time refreshing things, starting over, really ensuring that that people are buying into what you are selling. And that only happens if you are actually finding your target audience and the people that you are talking to. So as mentioned, I was featured in Target. And so we did this maybe 2 years ago. And, the relevance of why I brought this in is because this is how I was able to really like use my message to evoke change. So we had shirts in Target for Black History Month. They said, "To my Black people, I love you. Racism tried to steal my joy. Hot tried. Everything Black." So this was my way of sort of being able to communicate what my message was, amplify my message, and get other people to like buy into it and create, create a brand in which it had a very impactful meaning within the people. So that might be the last slide. So thank you guys. I just wanted to, really showcase and share some of this about starting your own t-shirt company, starting your own apparel company, using your messages, really ensuring that whatever you are designing and creating, and however you are choosing to amplify your light, that, you really consider how to get your message across.
Wow, thank you so much, Kalilah. That was super powerful. And I know there might be some folks on the call who might be really interested in how might we really use entrepreneurship and businesses like yours to pass on really powerful messages. So before I go ahead, maybe I'll open it up to the audience for any questions, please. Anyone, any question? And you can also use the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. Yeah, any questions from our audience? And before we go ahead, we do have a message on the chat from Alexis. She said that love the photos with your son helping with mess. I'm sure you are such an inspiration to him. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Any questions? I definitely have one. I think I'm more so curious, like the messages on the shirts and the apparel in general, they're very, very inspiring and empowering. So I wonder, how do you source your messages? Like, do you do like crowdsource, or you just, you get inspiration from something or an event? Like, how do you really go about crafting those messages?
Yeah, really and truly, my messages, they come from me. Most of the times I just I think about, I go back to that relevancy, question, thought, like what is going on in the world, what things are really relevant, what things, will get the people talking, what do people care about, so whether it's within the election, whether it's something that's going on with immigration, migrants, people, however people will feel compelled to wanting to share their message. I think the bigger part of this is that there's a lot of people who you wouldn't even know are really inspired by some of the things that you need to share, and some of the things that are, sort of impactful. And a lot of the times people need a message, like they too need to, feel as if they're part of something, or they want to know, like, what and how they can stand in solidarity with one another. So, that really helps for us to create something that people will resonate with as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. So another question that I have is, I just lost my train of thought, but basically, what's your favorite part of your brand? Your day-to-day, like what's your favorite part? And the question I was trying to remember is, I know how they say you learn as you go ahead, or as you go along your journey. So I wonder, how has mess changed over time? Like, what's the difference between when you started 7 years ago versus now?
I think that when you're starting a business, there's just so much like that your eyes are really open. You're sort of like a kid in a store, and you're like, you want to try everything, you want to do everything. So I think as it grows, there's more risk, there's more, so it has, transitioned and transformed in various different ways where, I've been able to get employees, and, like there's been so many things that I've had to like either change or manage, and, that came with growth. So I would just say that over the years, that's been the biggest part. And just knowing how to manage staff has become, a large part of this.
Thank you. And I see a question in the chat from Alexis. Do you try to send out a certain number of messages per quarter, per year, etc., or do you just release as you think of them?
More or less, like I'm strategic about like bringing back messages, what's done well in the past. But I am also more like what works, So, I don't create like X amount of messages every quarter, but then I do say to myself, like, all right, I know, when your audience is sort of ready for a new message.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And also, have you done anything, or have you had messages in the past that has been centered around mental health or other health issues? And what really was, if yes, what was your inspiration?
Yeah, we have a shirt out right now that says travel like your mental health depends on it. We also have a shirt that says on my way to therapy, be right back. So, it is important for us to create messages that really speak to, the mental health, sector, and really making sure that people all together, they feel supported and and they feel seen. That's what my brand is truly about. And so I think that has really been helpful, because people are like, yes, I'm traveling because I needed this. My mind needed this. So I think that has been really helpful, where people feel as if like you're going through what they're going through.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of like it's also normalizing therapy, because I feel like in the Black community, especially among Black men, they usually shy away from therapy and seeking mental help in general, even admitting that I'm not okay. So I think
Right.
that's also helping to normalize therapy and mental health awareness and so on. So that's great.
For
So
sure.
as someone who might not have any prior knowledge of entrepreneurship or any experience in general with starting a business, what piece of advice would you give to other people interested in using their brand as a form of using their brand as a form of creativity and healing and wellness and a voice to the community?
Yeah, I would just say, biggest thing, just start. It'll kind of work its way out. You'll be able to see what your, audience wants, how you're gravitating towards that. But I will also say that, sometimes we definitely don't know the greatness or what our purpose, like what the purpose is in what you're creating. So I think the more that you just get out there and, get things started, is the more that stuff will reveal itself to you.
Thank you. Wonderful. And I'm gonna open it up again. Any questions, anyone, or comments? Oh, I do see one. Moji says, enlightening presentations. Thanks for sharing. Continued success. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wonderful. Any more questions or messages? Do you have any last words for us, Kalilah?
I would just encourage everyone, depending on how they are deciding to venture into either finding their light through their message, or, figuring out how to make a mess and turn it into a message. I would just encourage everyone, to look within themselves and to really, follow their own path, their own beat, their own, guidance, because I do think sometimes we don't trust ourselves enough. So I would highly recommend, that, all the answers are within you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. I just thought about one last question. And as you were saying, your last words, it just popped up in my head. I remember back in your presentation, you did mention that, the market is, how do you stand out in a market that is saturated? So my question is, how did you deal with like imposter syndrome, or, that inside voice that's saying, how are you going to start? Like, how do you deal with that? Part of that inside voice that would say you can't do this, or it can negativity in general. How did you deal with that throughout your journey?
I would say, I definitely went through that, and I've asked myself a million times, like, why am I continuing? Is this for me? Is this something that I need to, continue and do? So I would just say, I also recognize that I've been chosen for something. And so I think the more that you believe in your own gift, your own power, those things become a bit more, like you become more comfortable with stepping into, your light. So those are some of the things that I realized. The more I was confident and comfortable with it, the more, it made sense. And I just had to show up for myself.
Wow, thank you so much, Kalilah. I really thoroughly enjoyed the session, and I hope you all did as well. I'm very thankful for your time. I know you're a very busy woman. I mean, your bio spoke for itself. So thank you so much for embracing us with your presence. Yeah, and hope you have a great day. Thank you, everyone, for listening in as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.